When my grandfather started the business about 1945, that's quite a risk starting any new business, especially after the war. But he went ahead and took the gamble and started the business and hired his crew from Higgins, and they just opened a shop. And I guess you hope people will come by it and think they had too much of a marketing or advertising strategy in those days other than location. They had a very good business as far as plating and polishing and rewiring chandeliers and a regular kind of evolving lighting business. Street lights were knocked over and they found their way into my grandfather's shop, and people wanted them repaired. The solder joints had come undone, the integrity of the lights was compromised, and they could not be resoldered. The way that he repaired those old London street lights was to rivet them together. That's the only way it could actually be accomplished, because it was a historic problem with gas lights that you couldn't turn the flame up because it would melt the solder joints. Because in order to attach the solder, you had to use a flame. So he riveted them back together using his aviation and riveting experience. They don't solder airplanes together for a reason, because they'd fall out of the sky. They rivet airplanes together because riveting is the best, most permanent solution to attach metal together. So the only way to repair them is to rivet them. That was his historic contribution to lighting. About that time, he ran into a young architect of 60 years old by the name of A. Hayes Town from Baton Rouge, who we regard to this day as the father of Louisiana-style residential architecture. He took a lot of the elements historically from New Orleans and incorporated them into a beautiful, timeless residential design. Mr. Town, as a young architect, was walking through the streets of the French Quarter sketching lights, and he heard this tick, 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 and tap, 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 and it was my grandfather working late one night, and he stuck his head in the door and he said, "Hey, mister, can you make a light fixture?" And my grandfather said, "Well, if you can draw it, I can make it." And he and my grandfather got together and made this light right here, and this became a trademark of Mr. Town's homes in Louisiana and a cornerstone of our business.
Mr. Town was much enamored of the fixtures made by the Bevolo company, and he commissioned a lot. Literally, Bevolo's was the place to go in New Orleans. If you wanted something that looked 18th century, early 19th century, they could make it in a traditional manner. And you'll see these Bevolo fixtures on all of Hayes Town houses, just about. I mean, mine no exception, even though mine is small, but lanterns for the outside particularly, they're just beautiful. They really are.
From that time on, many famous architects from not only New Orleans but around the country have designed lights and built our line over the last 60 plus years.
I think that his line has been copied by some of these other manufacturers like in Charleston and other places, but I think that Bevolo can take credit for being the revivalist of these very attractive copper and brass fixtures, particularly copper though.
Those street post lights out there and the lights on top are called view carré lights, and that's a light in our line. It's an integral part of the landscape of New Orleans. People have used it in New Orleans advertising. You see that street light up there, you see Mardi Gras beads on it, you see the drug guy leaning against the pole, you see it on t-shirts, in caps and everything. We call those view carré lights, we call these original French Quarter lights, because this is originally what Mr. Town had drawn in 1945. It's the most architecturally neutral light that we have. It goes with most styles of architecture. It's not too formal, but it's very well drawn and very well balanced and very well designed. My grandfather did lights all over the quarter. He did the lights on the Cabildo, the Presbytere, Brennan's, Maspero's. You know, we have lights sometimes named after the buildings or restaurants or things that we're on. We have a Royal Sonesta light. And really the nicest lights in the quarter are in these courtyards that you never get to see, unfortunately. Some beautiful homes that go very deep into the quarter. It takes about 2 days for a single fixture in terms of man hours, from start to finish, to cut the copper, to scribe the parts, to break it and bend it and roll it and drill it and rivet it and cleco it. Nothing's really automated up here. Everything's done the same way we've always done it, by hand, from scratch, the long way, the old way, and we're trying to keep the tradition of how we make our lights intact. For instance, this is an old foot shear here. This is one my grandfather actually got from Higgins shipyards when they had their rummage sale after the war was over and their business went down a bit. This is also a kind of interesting thing. It's a bowling alley that my grandfather bought for $100 way back when. You can see it's been drilled a few times. So when we're drilling lights and making lights and things, it's got drill holes in it. We have nothing on computer. It's all on templates and a couple of people's brains. It's like the Coke formula. Copper is the easiest metal to work with, number one, and most corrosive resistant. Brass will pit in corrosive environments, but copper tends to absorb and age very gracefully, so it's going to look the best over time. Every light starts out as this flat sheet of copper right here. We cut it smaller and smaller, and we cut it into patterns that we have made over a 60-year period of time. We'll cut it by hand first with this, bring it down to where we can put it on our foot shear here, and then also we'll break things to an angle. So here we'll put in things. This is set on 1/4 of an inch, so we'll break things to a certain angle like this, and this may become the leg of a light or a fold on a light, and put it together. So in the front you have side pieces that you'll fit in. These have to be clipped still and trimmed and then put together to make a final door. We'll mark these, drill a hole, match the hole up here, and you put your rivet in. The rivet goes in here, it'll hold these two pieces together, and then you'll hammer it and put it together up there. So we'll drill these holes in here. You set the rivet, hammer it down, and then finish it. And now they'll hold those two pieces together, hopefully forever, through heat and rain and sleet and snow. Copper doesn't rust, so it's fairly corrosive resistant for the rest of its life. Resorts we're doing in the Bahamas right now, for instance, or a resort we're doing in the Cayman Islands, extremely corrosive environments. If you have a light fixture that you buy from a lighting store, for instance, in Florida, if it's soldered together in the joints, the integrity of those joints are going to come apart because Florida is a very corrosive environment. We're looking at some pretty stout marine coatings. We want to make a light fixture that's completely corrosive resistant. And we'll oxidize this to take the shine off it and antique the copper to be about 15 to 20 years old. These vats over here have a mixture to oxidize our lights a certain way, and we have a technique that we use, and it's a multi-step process to make our lights look the way that they do. And they look different from anybody else's lights. And it's just like Coke and Pepsi. Both of them are colas and this and that, but our lights really look the best. And everybody tries to find out the formula, but it's a tightly guarded secret. These are completed until they get a finishing oil on them, and then they'll start to age from there. At this point, we've aged them about 15 to 20 years. Once they get on the house, they start to age with the house and the brick and the other elements, roofing materials, copper gutters, slate roof, ridge caps. They all weather and age together, so the lights look like they've always been there on the house. And that's our intention when we do a lot of National Historic Registered homes. We've done Thomas Jefferson's, the University of Virginia, some very historic things in New England. We take great care in making the lights look like they've always been there. Obviously, they hadn't have gas lights in 1776 in the United States or electric lights, but still, when people walk up, they think those are the original lights that Thomas Jefferson put on the house. So there's thousands of different pieces. There's a few hundred different models and styles of lights and different variations and sizes. We're moving to better coatings as they're developed, powder coating, and then we went to galvanized and hot dip galvanized. This is brushed stainless, and this is a design of a governor light, which is one of the oldest models of gas lights in the world, also of English origin. We did some restaurants, and I found that by putting in a brushed stainless setting, it gave it a real contemporary edge instead of this old English governor design. It's actually gotten a couple of architectural awards in some applications that we've done it in. We're fourth generation business here, and the percentages go down every year whether or not it'll survive. Just a second generation, it drops to 5%. We've been through some transitions. Some guys have been here working a long time. It's kind of hard to find new craftsmen. I guess about 15 years ago, all my grandfather's people had kind of gotten old and they didn't really rehire and retrain and replenish. And we were down to really one original guy and my uncle. It was very hard for them to stay competitive and new. And when I came into the business, I was able to help them out. My uncle retired and went to Las Vegas. We probably had 40 employees and another manufacturing facility. And we thought about different long-term 5-year and 10-year projections for the business, what we're going to do. And I think we're just going to continue to expand steadily. What we do is very special. We're very protective of it. We only train good people and want to keep our employees forever if we can.
They have a market that is far beyond New Orleans or Louisiana. It's a national market.
We're in all 50 states and 28 countries. We were really well received in some other markets that we were trying to explore. In Florida, we have a whole tremendous new market. 4,000 people a day are moving into the state of Florida. There's a lot of building going on there. So it will continue to be a big market for us. Katrina will affect our business. We lost a few employees who lost their homes. Our business is all around the country, and our business actually increased about 25% during that particular time, which was unfortunate production-wise, because now we're scrambling to catch up. We lost about a month of production time there, and we like to stay in a 4-week window lead time, and we're a little bit behind the 8 ball now. And it's hard to retrain people immediately. It takes a little training process to get them 1 or 2 years into the mix before they can really kind of start doing things on their own. We'll be hiring and training new people, and we've already expanded one production facility over on the North Shore, which was planned pre-Katrina. We're going to stay inside of Louisiana. I don't ever want to outsource and go out to Pacific Rim manufactured products. That's not us. It's original French Quarter lights. We can't make anywhere else but the French Quarter. All the architecture in New Orleans influences residential lighting. When people travel here, they want to get architectural ideas for their homes, and they want to capture a little bit of that and bring it back with them, whether it's our lights, or whether it's our dark green shutters, or whether it's our old brick.
They want what they call the French Quarter look, and indeed, Bevolo has produced a wonderful line.
We're on a lot of famous people's homes. Donald Trump's $30 million penthouse renovation in Manhattan, Harry Connick Jr.'s house up in New Canaan, Bush Sr.'s house in Houston, a lot of sports guys and celebrities. We donate a lot to special events and fundraising, donate lights, live auctions, and they're popular items. If you can have an original French Quarter gas light in your yard or on your house and it's custom made for your house, that's a pretty unique auction item. We make something very special. We make lights which are designed specifically for people's homes. We build these lights for your house. It becomes an integral part of your house. It's like furniture or jewelry you're putting on the outside of your house. It becomes a very special element in the architecture and design of the house. If we make lights for a house, those lights are going to be on that house forever. We'll take care of them as long as you own them. We make lifetime fixtures. You put them on the house and that's the end of the game. We've expanded it around the United States, and our business model has been successful, so we're going to continue to grow from here and try to help rebuild New Orleans.